So week 9, we are discussing finding cultural similarities to the Native Americans and Alaska Natives. I chose to watch and discuss the We Are Still Here segment. And the first question, some examples I read in the chapter you see in the video of how Native Americans maintain, protect, and restore health. I didn't really see any examples in the video. But I guess an example would be the Native American belief about health is that it reflects living in total harmony with nature and having the ability to survive under exceedingly difficult circumstances. And the people who were interviewed in the documentary all stated how they grew up in, it was hard growing up as Native American, and they grew up in very impoverished conditions, but that they didn't know any better. And I think being able to have that one, I guess, total harmony with nature and having the ability to survive essentially made them stronger. And I think it's something that not a lot of people would be able to relate to unless it's something that you've been through. But in the book, an example of maintaining, restoring, and maintain, restore, and protect health would be the witch doctors. And the witch doctors would, they would look for the spiritual cause of the problem, and that's how they would diagnose the patient. And then they would have healing rituals, I think is what the book talked about, and how they would have like a singer to chant, and that the singer that was chanting was for psychological reasons, so the patient would feel cared for in a deeply personal way, while the witch doctor would do whatever ceremony or ritual to heal the patient, which is kind of neat. Examples of heritage consistency from the segment would be the language and how they were trying to bring back the language into this generation, and how they were kind of probably like the dual immersion programs that they have at some schools. They're in the documentary, the girl was excited because her daughter was learning the native language and she would be able to communicate with her great-grandmother. And the great-grandmother was excited that she could talk in her native language with the granddaughter. And it's kind of neat. They're trying to bring it back and hopefully carrying it on into further generations. Another example from the documentary is the powwow, and how they listen to the traditional music and the drums and the traditional dancing, which I thought that was really neat. You could see the whole community come together. Do I have any real experience like the young Native Americans? I think the only thing that I could relate to maybe would be the language. I would love to be able to speak more Spanish, so I could talk to like my grandmother and talk to my kids and have my kids carry it on, because I think it's very beneficial, and it's great for them to learn kind of how I grew up listening to my mom and my grandma speak Spanish to me. My mom's really good about keeping it with the kids, and she does speak Spanish to them, and it's funny because as young as they are, they do understand what she's saying. The biggest health issue for Native Americans that they have to deal with, I would say, would be alcoholism. They said that in the documentary. In the book, it's listed as one of the 5 causes of death in the Native American population. I think that it's kind of sad that they have turned to alcohol, and the gentleman insinuated that it's because of all the hardships that they had to deal with, and especially when they were forced into the boarding schools, and they had to assimilate into American culture and Americanize themselves, and they weren't allowed to speak their language, they weren't allowed to practice their traditions, and they come out of there and they have no one to talk to, no one to relate to, so they turn to alcoholism. And I think I say that's the problem today is because my dad spends his summers in New Mexico up in the mountains, and a lot of Native Americans live up there. And he came back this past summer and told me he would just see them passed out on their side of the road drunk, and that it was like a daily occurrence for, you know, the ambulance to get called to come and check them to make sure they were still breathing, because there's nothing they can do. And if they can't afford alcohol, what they do, I guess the thing now, is to drink Scope or to drink NyQuil to get drunk. And another thing a lot of them abuse as a painkiller is this type of silver drink that turns their lips blue and their lips silver. Um, it's kind of sad. He doesn't remember what it was called when I asked him. In my home, the biggest health issue for my family is trying to maintain a healthy weight and a healthy lifestyle and carrying it down to your kids. I know the older I've gotten, the harder it's been. With my mom and dad, the older they've gotten, the harder it's been. Um, they completely changed the way that they eat and stay active just so they can live longer and be healthier, have a healthy heart. My husband's side of the family, his dad has a really bad heart condition that hopefully it's not going to be carried down by him or any of his brothers, but that's something that we have to keep an eye on. But it's also forced him to be very active and very healthy, so it's not something that he has to deal with. And I think that is all. See you next week.